190 years ago, in 1826, the old Union Oyster House opened in Boston, Massachusetts. It's been serving food and drink ever since, making it the oldest operating restaurant in the United States. Union Oyster, a busy, efficiently run eatery, has evolved since 1826, but still very much maintains the look and atmosphere of a well-preserved, if aged, institution. Just inside the main entrance is the Oyster Bar itself. It's U-shaped and made of mahogany. Gurgling nearby, there's a lobster tank, filled with the crustacean for which Boston is rightly famous. Behind the lobster tank, dark, polished wooden booths are grouped near a drinks bar. Not far from the bar, a large sign hangs from the ceiling bearing the words, "The Kennedy Booth." Booth 18 was where President John F. Kennedy dined on a regular basis, at least before he became the president. It was his favorite, and JFK's favorite Union Oyster dish was the lobster chowder. You can still book his spacious booth. It seats 6. Upstairs is mostly dining tables and booths in a similar environment, i.e., registering of history with colonial furnishings, dark woods, paintings, and traditional fixtures. Numerous varnished oil paintings of historical events seemed quite at home in the room. Curious to see what they do with them, I ordered the Union grilled oysters. Actually, it was the Parmesan and mozzarella cheese with which they'd been smothered that ended up being grilled or possibly baked. Essentially, the oyster meat under the cheesy lid had been parboiled in its own juices. Classic Oysters Rockefeller is a much more interesting cooked dish, but my favorite oyster is still raw with a squeeze of fresh lemon. Boston market-style cornbread, cake-like and sweet, is what's served at Union Oyster. It was a bit like eating dessert at the same time as your main. I suppose we could have saved it to have later with coffee, but I had something different yet equally traditional in mind for dessert. Fish cakes were served with Boston baked beans. The beans, tasting of the signature Boston ingredient molasses, were a little soupy but good. Much better were the golden brown fish cakes featuring fresh fish held together with egg, potato, and crumbs and seasoned with salt, pepper, and parsley. Being in New England, I thought a seafood restaurant would do fish and chips similar to the way it's made in England, as we do in St. John's. But that wasn't the case at the Union Oyster House. Although succulent, the fish had been coated in cornmeal, which yielded a texture completely different from traditional battered cod. Chipped companions appeared to be mass-produced but tasted fine. I think it's likely that many of you have never heard of New England's Indian pudding. It's an odd dessert, and the Union Oyster House version was odder than I'd imagined. Longtime Massachusetts resident, the late Julia Child, introduced it to me through her PBS cooking show. Indian pudding is made from, you guessed it, cornmeal, molasses, and milk. This slow-cooked pudding is supposed to be runny, but Julia's deep, dark pudding with glossy, almost black skin, while appearing loose, still had shape when spooned onto a plate. She served it with the traditional scoop of vanilla ice cream. Union Oyster served mine with vanilla ice cream too. Otherwise, it was very different from Julia's and more like something Ebenezer Scrooge would have had before bedtime. Very gruel-like, watery and brown with an overwhelming taste of molasses. As an eatery, I'd probably give Union Oyster House a miss. But as a place to experience some genuine Boston history, it's well worth a visit.